do you know your titties are just like out?
Hello and welcome to another episode of Cheap Smut. My name is Katie Mizell.
And my name is Carl Mizell.
And this is our third ever author profile. Please welcome our very special guest, Rachel Rener.
Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Hello, you two. I'm great. I'm so happy to be talking to you. I've heard your sumptuous voices so many times. I never actually got to talk back.
Well, Rachel, it's for those of you who might not be familiar, Rachel is a #1 international best-selling romantasy. I love that word, romantasy author who is a big fan of blurring the line between magic and science. And if you've read any of the books in her Gilded Blood series, you would be fully aware of that by now. But if not, go check out the Gilded Blood series. It's available everywhere, including a deluxe omnibus.
So cool,
yes.
man. It's so cool.
Now, I'm jumping ahead wildly. So, it sort of a TLDR nutshell version. What was your journey from, I think I want to write, to now this is your job?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to point out for all those people who can't actually see us visually right now that your dog's butthole is very prominent in the screen. Very distracting, but I am here for it.
He has the most, just there butthole. Every single time I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's like in your face.
Easy, big fella. That's a lot of butthole. But
hello, world. Here I am.
But enough about that. We were talking about your journey from our dog's butthole to full-time writer.
As I was telling you and Katie before we started recording, I have had a plethora of jobs. You can blame it on me not being diagnosed with ADHD until I was 26 years old. That certainly would have changed things a little bit. So I have theater in my background. I have waitressing in my background. I have project management in my background. I lived in Japan. I lived in Turkey. I've taught several languages. I've done lots of stuff. And the last job I did before doing full-time writing was translation and localization. And the short explanation of that is, if you want to do a bacon cheeseburger ad with a woman with large cleavage, in the Middle East, we would then say to you, hey, we need to change up this ad a little bit, not just translate it, but localize it for your audience. Because I'm a big fan of language. I had a huge client who owns maybe 2/3 of the world. We just don't know it yet. And I was working day and night and day. And one day I quit. And my husband said, funny story, Rachel, you are so creative, and yet you do all of these jobs that are not. And I said, hey, yeah, you're right. Anyway, he sat me down in front of the computer and he said, I need you to just start writing. And I said, that's great. I don't know what to write. And he said, I don't care. Just start writing. And then 7 weeks later, I had a novel, and that was crazy because I never knew I could write a novel. Hey, but you can. And now it's been 5 years, and I've got 16 publications.
Criminy.
Jeez, ow. Okay, so anybody else feel really inadequate hearing Rachel
talk?
No. It took everything in my power to write a 5-page comic. So I understand that, and that is fascinating. You said localization, and the first thing my brain bopped to as a gamer is video games, because localizing from a lot of games that are made in Japan over to America, there is a lot that gets literally lost in translation. But you forget about that as well in terms of how do you localize anything, to the point where there was a famous bit of localization. I think probably the most well-known version of that was from, I can't remember, I think it was the Captain America Winter Soldier, right after he came out of the ice, and he was making a list of things to follow up on, because he'd been in the ice for so long, and there were multiple versions for different countries, right?
Yes.
That's exactly, I mean, that's right there is a good example of that. Would you agree? Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I'm not crazy.
And no, you're not crazy. I mean, you might be, but in this situation, no, you are spot on. No, it's a big thing. I would go into, these big meetings because I did like account management for it too. And they would say, no, we don't need localization. We have apps for that, right? Even back then, AI was causing problems. And I would pull up my presentation. So imagine me in my little like suit jacket and stuff with my little, PowerPoint. And I would say, let me walk you through all of the localization gaffes that have happened over the last, decades. My absolute favorite one is in certain parts of Africa where literacy rates are pretty low. They label their food with pictures. Makes perfect sense. You get a can of green beans, there's green beans on it. I love that. It's great. Well, Gerber Baby Food decided they would start selling products in these places with pictures of babies.
I was going to say, not the Gerber baby.
And it didn't go over well.
Yeah.
It didn't go over well. Schweppes also was called toilet water, I think, in Italian. Someone needs to fact check me on that, but it's important. But it was also important to not work 15 hours a day and be working on holidays and be having ulcers and migraines all the time. You know what I mean? So my husband was right. He often is.
Oh, good for him.
Well, good. They call him the mysterious Mr. R.
Mr.
K. I wasn't sure. That's why I was delicately.
Take your last name, Mr. R.
Yep. All right. So
we thought about it.
I would have taken yours. Yours is cool, but mine's weird. Meisel.
Yeah.
It's so German.
Yeah.
Meisel. And I'm not even. I'm like mostly English and Irish. Thank you. So, quick question. What was your favorite role that you've ever played?
Oh my gosh. So I did more directing than acting, but I did play a cantankerous old British lady who got smothered to death on stage, and that was fun. That was really
sounds
fun.
like a blast.
And the director specifically told me not to knock the cup over, but me and my creative fervor, when it happened, I knocked the cup of tea over and it shattered, and it was beautiful. And the stage manager wanted to get rid of me forever because there was such a mess to clean up in between takes. But I really, really loved that character. What about you two? You both come from theater.
Oh, that's a tough one. Do you want to take this one? Do you have a favorite role?
Favorite role? Oh, God.
Or show?
Favorite show? My favorite show was when I did Godspell, because I was in an all-female cast of Godspell.
It was a very cool show.
And it was, we set it in a biker club. So we all got to wear leather, and our Lady Jesus taught us all about, whatever it is that Jesus teaches people in Godspell. And I got to sing Turn Back, Oh Man, wearing a leather corset. It was a great time. I loved that show.
That is beautiful. I love that. I hope that there's a recording somewhere.
There is in the archives of the community theater where we did that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're badass.
She's very badass.
Thank you.
Oh God!
What about you, babe? What is your favorite role?
Oh God, musicals. I prefer straight plays to musicals. My favorite. Don't.
Same.
Thank you. My dog was starting to be an asshole. Musical. It's a toss up between The Full Monty or Hair. I played Ethan in The Full Monty.
You were really good in Hair.
Yes, thank you. I was very good in Hair. I appreciate you saying so. I played the character. If you're familiar with The Full Monty, either the film or the musical version, I played the role of the guy who cannot sing, cannot dance, cannot act. Well, what can you do? And I dropped my trousers, and they're like, "You're in." That's the character that I play. It wasn't casting true to life. Please don't anybody. I didn't have to audition.
I mean. As long as everyone's consenting adults, do what you need to do in the world. Do what you need to do,
And we
Carl.
did, for the record, we all got fully nude on stage at the end of the show.
They did. Every night.
Every night.
Yep.
It was.
They were backlit.
Was
massive spotlights behind them.
In the script?
Yes.
Okay.
At the end of The Full Monty. They're all nervous.
Oh, I'm thinking about.
Okay. No. Okay.
No. Only Claude gets naked at the end of the first act of Hair.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is a common misconception. People, when you do Hair, they go, "Oh, you didn't do the nude scene." It wasn't written as the nude scene. It was okay. You're nodding knowingly. Yeah, see, you're in the know. So I see. Okay, so that's some legit theater knowledge right there. So all right, I see you, Rachel Rener. I also see you doing a Kickstarter. And
Carl and his famous transitions.
Oh, my famous transitions. They're so great.
I love good transitions. Are great. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. So fill us in. So there are 4 books in the Gilded Blood series, and they have been released individually. But then you said, hey, I want to... So where does the idea come from to put them in a deluxe omnibus? Like, what convinced you to try to mount this production? And then why did you take it to Kickstarter?
Yeah, I had no interest in doing that. I didn't want to do it. That's a lot of work. Do you know how much work that is? But I had people hawking me every freaking day, literally every day. Is there going to be an omnibus? Are you going to make it foil? Is there going to be leather? Is Biscuit going to be on the cover? Every damn day. And I was like, no, you guys, I'm not. There's already a deluxe color edition. Have you guys? I don't think you guys have seen this, right? But like, they're already like illustrations at the top of every chapter, right? Like they've got spot color. There's a colored title page, right? Like, we didn't need to do this. I didn't want to take money from people.
We have seen it because you sent us one.
We have it. We have Jinxed.
Yeah, we have Jinxed. We have the second book of the series. But
I should get you the first book because that makes my brain itchy that you only have 2. I'll send you the first book tomorrow.
Well, I bought it. I bought it digitally though.
Yeah.
So, and I did start it, but then I immediately moved away from it because that's how my brain works.
I get it.
So, people were haranguing you politely. I'm sure nobody was,
Always polite. Always polite. No, so what happened was, people were saying, oh my gosh, we could do this, we could do that. And I was like, I really don't think so, you guys. I'm like really stretched thin. That sounds like literal hell. And then I got online and an author friend of mine, CE Page, posted her new book. And the cover was like the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. And I'm a terrible friend because I don't remember the title of the book. I can find it. We can edit it in. But it was gorgeous. And I found out who her artist was, and I reached out to him. And I said, hey, hypothetically, because I'm a starving artist, authors don't make money, what could we do, to make this book sexy? And then I went into that really beautiful hyper-focus mode that sometimes neurospicy people can attain.
Yes.
I was like, okay. You know what? I actually think I could do this. So then I went to a woman named Madeline in Germany. She did the cover, and we had Biscuit on the front with all of the almonds because he's obsessed with almonds. And then we had a butt cobra on the back because it literally starts with butt cobras. And then Yui Yarling is going to do 13 like full color illustrations. We're revamping like all the chapter headings. It has taken so much of my life, but it is beautiful. Like, I just want to rub my face on it. It's really, really pretty.
I promise not to isolate that phrase and use it for nefarious purposes.
You can absolutely do it. By all means. I own these works.
This is what I'm gonna do. Kate knows what I like to do when I'm editing. Sometimes the edit process gets to be a slog, so I'll find a phrase that's really fun and I'll pitch it. I'll speed it up and slow it down. So absolutely. I would like to rub my face on it, but it's Rachel Rener. So just be prepared.
If it brings you joy, I want you to chase that spark.
It does, and I will. Thank you.
Good. Well, your second question was why Kickstarter, and the answer to that is very simple. It would cost a literal fuck ton of money.
Yes,
I mean, my art budget for this was like close to $8,000.
Yeah. It's no joke.
And no. And so like $15,000 was the goal. Honestly, I still would have lost a little bit of money doing that, but at least I could have done like a good print run. And then like I was just kind of blown away that the Kickstarter just kept funding.
I'm glad you said that because I was looking it up. You cleared it. You tell everybody. You said your initial goal was $15,000. You ended up with how much?
Yeah. Like 51,000, give or take.
Yeah.
A little bit of money.
Yeah. And you came up with some magnificent stretch goals. I don't know if ethically we're supposed to say this. So full disclosure, Katie and I did contribute at a low level because this is a single income 2-child house, but we did contribute to that. But some of those stretch goals,
I sent your art pack out yesterday, actually. It went in the mail yesterday morning.
Fantastic.
You supported the art pack. It was so nice. As soon as I saw your name, I was like, I know that card. Went in the mail first thing yesterday morning. So it might even be there today for all we know.
It definitely wasn't. So if you don't mind kind of filling folks in on some of the stretch goals, and I know that having worked in comics in the past, I know that the idea of coming up with stretch goals is sort of like what do you do? So fill us in on a couple of those and how you kind of landed on those.
I just thought, what would I want? I mean, this was a really selfish project for me. I wanted to make the most beautiful book I'd ever seen in my entire life. And so I just kept thinking, how can I make this even sexier, right? If I didn't write this story, what would I want in the book? And so, I think it was like a ribbon bookmark. It's going to be gold, of course, for Talia's Gold Blood. We started off with 10 illustrations, so there's 13 now. We did like a full color map, and then we made it fold out. I mean, it was just like, what can I do? It was like, you get a map, and you get a map, and you get a, and then, because remember I mentioned a little earlier, I've been stretched a little thin lately. I was like, just for fun, I'm going to put a short story with everyone's favorite characters, Dee Dee, the Jewish mother, and Biscuit, the tattoo familiar. And I'll make that like a $50,000 goal, right? Like, we'll never hit that, but it'll be fun. It'll be like a nice little carrot. And then we hit it. We hit it real good. I'm actually in the middle of writing it right now.
And then you had to write it.
Yeah. Listener, I've had to edit out a bunch of like keystrokes and clacking. It's quite upsetting.
Yeah, writing it as
like literally
right now.
She's doing that thing where like she like points like one finger like hold on.
Like Archer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Archer while I'm chugging the whiskey.
Oh, you made an Archer reference. You're Carl's best friend now.
This is how you get ants.
Yeah. Here's a deep cut for you. So a few years ago, Katie got me an unofficial Archer shirt. It's got 2 lacrosse sticks and a picture of an ocelot, and it says Whore Island Ocelots.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. I'm sending my husband a message right now to bring me something that I can show you.
Please.
We can keep talking. Just like, here, I'll do the finger here.
Yep, she's fingering us again.
I'm
Yep.
Wow. I didn't think we'd get there until at least 30 minutes in. We're only 17 and a half minutes in.
Honestly, I've been practicing all day.
Practicing what? Fingering?
How to embarrass potentially. Although it seems like if you come from a theater background, you do not embarrass easy.
No, but it's really funny the things that like do embarrass me, and I can't actually tell you what those things are. But it's like, people don't think I get embarrassed, so then when they say something that does and my face turns beet red, they're like, "Oh my God, you blush?" I'm like, "Yeah,
I do." I remember when I first started in theater, the first time that one of my cast members who was not supposed to be in that dressing room, I was in the men's dressing room. She belonged in the dressing room next door. She just came in topless. Was like, "Hey, do you have any?" I think asking for some sort of makeup, and I was like, "I don't do that. Do you know your titties are just like out?"
Yeah. How did that make you feel?
At the time, wicked uncomfortable. But that's I mean, for better or worse, as I'm sure you know, people in theater tend to be a little more forward and direct, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is just how it is." And so somebody tried to explain that to me, and I was like, I still don't want to see that.
I was in theater, and unless I got too drunk and I can't remember, I don't think I ever walked around with my titties out.
Yeah.
Oh no, there were a few times.
Yep,
just
see.
kidding. No, just kidding.
Figured it wouldn't take long.
I mean, once the dressing room door closes, you just have to like whip your top off or whatever. But just like wander in the halls.
And it was at the Bower.
Oh Lord!
It was at the Bower, and there's like a 20 to 30. I feel like it was like 20 feet between the. So it was she had to walk. I'll tell you who it was off the air.
Okay.
You guys, I have a special guest really quickly.
Mr. K.
This is Carl and Kate. This is Mr. K.
Hi, Mr. K.
This is what I got commissioned for us for his birthday a while ago. I'm trying not to do that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That was cool as hell.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that in.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that awesome? It hangs up in his office. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a banana in his pocket. Not a gun, but a banana.
I did not notice that. But that is clever. We got to meet Neil Holman, who was the art director for that show, and then
no kidding.
And I got a sketch of Archer from Kevin Mallon, who was a storyboard artist on the show for a while. That's buried somewhere.
It's in the basement in our box of art.
God, I love it so much. So, getting back to the actual interview portion of the show, but these aren't very formal. These are just us getting to know you and then passing it along to our listeners.
The Gwendolyn Harper episode, we spent like 5 minutes just disparaging the name of Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah. Who's an author?
Yeah.
There you go. Quick. Who's an author you want to fight?
An author I want to fight? Andy Peliquin.
Okay. Any particular?
I want to fight him good, but he's like twice my size. Okay. So I would have to like cue the Rocky montage where I'm like running up and down stairs, like prepping for it. Like, yeah, he would take me. He would like without even trying. But I still want to fight him. I still want to fight him.
I'm
you just
a large
get on
man.
his back.
Yep.
And get your arms around his neck. Claw his eyes out.
Yeah.
The various backgrounds that I can relate. I've had a multitude of jobs. I am neurospicy as well, late diagnosed autism and that sort of thing. So I've kind of had my hands in a lot of stuff, and people are always like, "Wow, you've done so much," but I feel like
so many things.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like not only does that make my life more interesting and it gives me a better perspective on the world in general, but I feel like with my creative endeavors, it kind of makes me appreciate it more. And I feel like those experiences have and you're nodding. Yes, you're nodding sagely. So you would agree with that?
This is my perspicacious nod of sagacity.
Ooh, wow, perspicacious.
I know, right? She said sagacity too.
Wow,
jeez.
Hell yeah.
By the way, I just want to point out, and I say this all the time, but like ASD and ADD goes together like peanut butter and jelly with I know, I can tell. You didn't even have to tell me, and I knew.
Yeah.
With every once in a while, a spicy pickle gets thrown in there.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean that as a metaphor. I just mean like, it's like awesome. And then one day you're like, we see completely differently eye to eye. We're not even eye to eye right now. We're like eye to toes. What's happening here?
Yep.
It's quite funny.
Yeah,
it's quite funny.
One of the dumbest arguments that I ever started with my wife was...
Which one?
You.
No, which argument, dumbass?
Which wife?
You want to help him out a little bit there?
Thanks.
Dog is getting...
Can't climb up on the couch. He's
more dog butthole.
Yep.
We were living over on Gold Avenue, and we were going to go to your parents' house.
Yep.
And you were taking some sort of ass-backwards way to get there. And like you're taking the expressway to get to your parents' house, which from there seemed dumb to me. And I was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm going to my parents' house. This way? I mean, it wasn't like a big argument, but it was definitely one of the dumbest arguments I ever tried to start, for sure.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
But because of, again, if anything deviates from the way my brain thinks it's supposed to go, 0 to 60, just... How could you not see this extremely perfect and right way that I'm seeing this?
Have you gotten in trouble, whether with your wife or someone else, where they're telling you a story and it's like either very heartfelt or very traumatic or just very negative overall, right? And they're like in their space, and you're like, you mispronounced that word. Has that?
I've used to, and it's the Leo. I think it's the Leo DiCaprio from like the Christopher Nolan one where like all the parts flip around. Inception, where he's kind of squinting. Because that's me going, don't correct them. Don't.
Yep.
They just told you that their mother died. Don't correct them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not being an asshole.
It's pronounced
it's not being
sclerosis.
Exactly.
It's all of the information, whether in your head or someone else's head. It's just really important that information get laid out properly.
Yeah.
I completely understand. I completely understand. I do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The project management background. I asked you about that. Because you gave me a very nice compliment when we were chatting before the show, and I was making sure that you got the link, and you said that as a former project manager, I appreciate organization, and I was very touched. So have you found that element of your background has helped, not just with the Kickstarter, but in terms of like staying focused and staying on task? And because I know that every time I've tried to write something, I get the ASD gremlins, the ADHD gremlins. I also have Tourette's too, so that's super fun as well. I'm just a hodgepodge of.
Oh, you've got all of the acronyms.
Oh man!
How exciting!
Oh, you also have the OCD.
Oh, and I have really fun OCD. That's really great too. The kind where like invasive thoughts never go away for years at a time.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. So the background, do you find that navigating your way as an independent artist is easier because of that structured background? Because artists tend to have that sort of, artists are flaky and flighty, but you actually have to be fucking on top of so many things.
Yeah. I had to close out my other 27 tabs, and there were 27 of them. And when you don't get diagnosed with these acronyms until very late in life, the masking that you learn is just, to compensate. And that's part of the reason it's like that vicious cycle, right? I didn't get diagnosed, and because of that, I had to learn how to like overcompensate. And because I was overcompensating, nobody saw these things that in hindsight are now so obvious. So like always showing up 10 minutes early, otherwise I would be 2 hours late, right? Like writing everything down in like a little planner, otherwise it doesn't exist in my universe. Like if you didn't send me the calendar invite for this, which you so thankfully did, this wouldn't exist. This wouldn't be happening right now. Maybe in another universe with another Rachel, Kate, and Carl, but not in this universe. So yes, it has helped so much, and being a project manager helps so much because like I juggle more now than I ever did even at like the height of my project management job when I had like 27 offices overseas that I was sending projects back and forth to, it's a lot. And so when people are like, hey, I want to be an author, I'm like, hey, are you an idiot?
Yeah.
Like, don't do that. No, I don't actually say that.
No,
usually.
But I understand the sentiment because I think people don't realize, especially at the independent level, you're everything. You might even be your own editor. You're everything.
No, not my own editor.
Not you necessarily, but if you have it within you to write, you might not even think about the idea of an editor. You just want to write. And so you might try to edit yourself, or even you might know there's an editor, but you want to pay them and you can't afford to pay them. Like you don't realize how many jobs you're creating simply by trying to put pen to paper or, finger to keyboard.
Yeah. And, I'm a mid-list author. And I think, that's actually hard to quantify, but I consider myself a mid-list author. I've sold a decent number of books. And so because of that, I actually have to manage my money. And so I recently had to incorporate into an LLC, and I had to do all these business dealings, and I'm going to have to get like a special accountant and things like that. And it occurred to me the other day, and it like almost made me cry thinking about it. Like how many, particularly people with ADHD out there, because we tend to be very creative, like how many people with ADHD out there have a masterpiece that we don't know about because they don't know how to market themselves, or it's like just so daunting and overwhelming to have to do the business side of creativity. Like my heart just breaks for them, like it's hard. I didn't think I was going to like own my own company. I just wanted to write books, like I don't want to do the rest of that stuff, but I'm glad that I have a little bit of background to help me with it. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have made it this far.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hogging the conversation. You got anything for Rachel?
Oh, sure. Well, I guess we'll sort of stay in the same vein. Why don't we talk about your process? So, do you plan? I mean, you seem like an obsessively organized person. So, do you plan your books? Do you pants your way through it, or what? How do you go about starting?
That's why I didn't think that I could ever be an author, right? Like, I didn't realize my whole life I had been writing, whether it was like blogs that got popular or like marketing or like in science I was supposed to write like a scientific article on Ebola, and I turned to this like dramatic thing that totally made me fail the assignment, but then the teacher sent it to the English teacher, right? But I didn't think that I could ever write a book because I kept hearing about like J.K. Rowling and Brandon Sanderson and all of these authors who had plotted out every single aspect of their story before they even started writing it. And anytime I sat down, I was like, oh, what should I do for a plot? Like nothing came. Like it was like crickets. And so going back full circle to the beginning of this conversation, when my husband said, I really think you need to do something creative. I really think you need to write. And I said, I have no idea what to write. I didn't realize that there's something other than plotting, and it is pantsing.
Yes.
And I like to describe it as walking through a dark forest with a very dim flashlight. I see exactly what's in front of me. My characters write the story, but if you ask me what's 10 feet ahead, couldn't tell you. It's really stressful too. Like when I'm in the shower and I'm like, okay, I really need to know what the next chapter is going to be. I don't know. Who knows? Not me. Not me until I sit down at the keyboard and actually start typing it out with my dim little flashlight that's about to die on the battery that's, it's been using up. So I am as much of a pantser as you could get. And it is stressful as fuck. Like, don't
amazing.
Recommend that. I really don't.
Yeah,
but it's
I pantsed my way through half a novella once, and that was stressful enough. Yeah. I can't imagine doing it for, what you said, 16 published works now? Lord.
Yeah, it will, especially when people don't believe me when I say this, but I don't know sometimes I have a super vague idea of what I want to happen in the next book, but I don't actually know. I don't actually know, and I'm publishing books as I go, and I keep thinking, like, one of these days I'm going to hit a wall, and that's it. I won't know where to go from there, and it'll just be writer's block, and I won't be able to get past it, but I'm knocking on wood. It hasn't happened yet. My brain finds a way. Yay, neurospicy!
Yay!
Speaking of plotting and pantsing, did you plot or pants your way through your contribution to Arcane?
The Pilfered Quill?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking? Yeah,
yes.
We just came out with that anthology. That one was so much fun. David Green, who's a really close friend of mine, he's an author, and we said, we're going to write a story together. And I did know ahead of time, it was my idea that we were going to do a magical quill and like a total skis bag writer who like nobody understands his genius would stumble across this quill. And so like we did have like a starting point for that. But then he took 2,000 words and then I took 2,000 words. And then he took 2,000 words. We kind of just did it that way. We didn't plot it out. It was so much fun. Like one of my favorite stories ever.
That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, I just saw this on Instagram. Gosh, it was yesterday. So that is
scrolling Instagram in the middle of our interview.
Yeah, well,
he's trolling for questions to ask me.
Yeah, no, that's what Carl's good at. You're so good at the interview stuff.
Thank you. I'm pantsing on the fly.
Ooh,
yeah.
I'm pantsing.
There's some sort of pun about flies and pants.
Yeah,
right?
That was a beautiful
buried in there
double
somewhere.
entendre. That was great.
Thank you. I would really like to go back at some point and read this disgruntled reader post, but that's another issue for me. Unless you want to talk about it.
We can talk about anything you want, but I'll just say I get the best DMs. Like I get the best DMs. And I think it's also a cyclical thing. Like I got a few private messages in the beginning where like either people weren't being very kind or just like, oh, like you put that bathtub scene in there and it offended my better senses. And so like I never put their name in there, but I would post screenshots. And then now I think because people know that I post screenshots, they're like, I'm going to message her and just say ridiculous stuff. And I hope that she'll feature me on her Facebook page.
I feel like that Rachel Wolfson, the woman who was added to the Jackass cast for the last the last film. One time somebody like DM'd her and said, funnily enough, speaking of our dog's butthole, they just out of the blue was like, I bet you have a cute butthole. And so then it became like a gag where like people would DM her about it and she would screen grab it and post it.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening.
This person, we don't even have to read through it. Hold on, and I'm taking a moment with my ADD to make sure I don't actually say her name.
Take your time.
But right, because we love to blurt stuff out. She sent me a message and she was like, hey, first and foremost, yeah, you can go ahead and take a screenshot of this as long as you blur the fuck out of my name and picture. And I was like, what did I do? And she proceeded to tell me that she has like this horrible food poisoning, and I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And she was like, I'm only now getting to inked. It's really good. And I was like, well, thank you so much. Like that means so much to me, but what does this have to do with food poisoning? And she was like, oh, I'm getting there. Anyway, I got to the part about, the Jewish mother doing her bit and talking about Talia's boss's, benefits package, and I snarted. And I was like, what the fuck is a snart? And I'm really not following it. Like, I hadn't woken up apparently yet. And she was
Sounds like a Seussian invention.
Yeah, right. She was like, well, I snorted and I farted at the same time, and then I had to change my pants. And Carl, if you take that out as like a soundbite without context, we're gonna fight. Do not take that out of context.
It's only going to be the cold open for the episode.
Oh my God!
Snorted,
and then I farted.
And then I had to change my pants. Her comedic timing was actually gold. It was really good.
Super funny, but I would be putting that on the cover as a blurb.
Yeah.
The book that made one reader shit their pants.
And then blur the text.
Yeah, and the best one I thought, and I guess it's second place now, was like somebody was saying that she was at work and she had given birth like a couple months ago or whatever, and she was listening to Inked, on audiobook, and got to another part with Talia and her Jewish mother, and she said that she was laughing so hard she peed herself, and she was like, "You're never going to get a 5-star rating out of me because I'm going to dock you at least a star for making me pee myself at work." Yeah. I was like, okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Speaking of DMs, little peek. No, seriously. Little peek behind the curtain here.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Okay.
So we covered Inked very early in the run of our show, and back then we didn't tag authors. We might have tagged you. I don't remember.
Rachel was the very first author I ever tagged.
Yeah, we tagged you.
You did tag me, yeah.
And then we were just sitting around minding our own business, and my watch gets notifications, and I got a buzz that says author Rachel Rener sent you a message, and I open it, and it's an audio message.
No.
And we were because when we started the show, we always wanted to make it clear, like because sometimes it sounds to the untrained ear that we might be making fun of the book or the author. It's sure. we take the characters literally. So if the character's making a bad choice, we're treating it as the character, right?
Yeah.
But we were so nervous that we were going to piss off an author, and then we were like, "This woman is so mad. She couldn't. She needed us to hear." Anger in her voice. But no, it was the sweetest, kindest message.
It was great. You played it. I cried. It was wonderful.
In hindsight, if I had known that you were neurospicy, because, oh my God, I get that. I really, really, really get that. Anytime someone sends me a DM, I'm like, what did I do now?
Yep.
So I would have started off with, hey, don't worry, this is a good thing. And then I would have sent it, But no, you two, it was so much fun. Like, I really love listening to it. Like, I have a short attention span, even when it's like about my own books, and I gladly listen to both parts because it was a two-parter.
Yeah, it was a two-parter.
It was great. I was like, man, I want to talk to them about this. And then, like, I don't know, 6 months later, however long it's been, you're like, hey, let's talk. Dreams can come true. Dreams can come true.
No, you were the first person who was part of like the romance world, the community, to affirm what we were doing and to be kind about what we were doing, and it gave us the courage to like keep. I mean, we would have kept going, but it was definitely a real like, fuck yes, we are on. This is if this nice lady. This very nice lady who then we had to issue who
was
so kind as to not point out that I completely mispronounced your character's last name.
It's completely okay. It's complete. No, actually, Kate, I'm going to call you out. Out. That didn't bother me. It did bother me.
What did I do?
You said, and I'm going to butcher this. I'm not even going to remember the quote right, but you were like, there is no mention of cock or throbbing or anything else. And I was like, yes, there is. There is. And I think it was like that was the one time I'm listening to everything and I was like, oh, okay, she got that a little bit wrong. Oh, she mispronounced the name. No big deal. Whatever. It's like 350 pages. Like, who's going to get everything right? Like, you were just doing it from memory. That's awesome. But when you were like, there's no mention of cock or throbbing or quivering, I was like, listen here, you. And that last in the quote-unquote climactic double entendre scene, when she is straddling her boss, like, there was throbbing. There was,
of course, yes.
I'm 99.5% sure there was a cock mentioned. So
I'm pretty sure there was, because she full on frauded herself on that man.
She did. Yeah,
But
she
I
had a
was
great
just
time.
Inked was at the time the least
Very
spicy
tame.
book
Yeah.
that I had read for the show. It probably still is in terms of like spice level.
It actually is like I feel so privileged because I always tell people that there's a line between smut and steam, and that line is usually throbbing, creaming, moist, quivering, and like I really like flirted with that in Inked, but I did not. I'm very much in the steam category, not the smut. So thank you. You're not
welcome.
Steamco Industries, you're Smutco Industries.
Yes, we are.
I appreciate you letting just like a little steam in there too.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I found Inked, I was very excited because I have a special place in my heart for the romantic, like the paranormal romantic comedy. So I was like, oh, a paranormal romantic comedy. And it's like this new thing, like, going into another realm isn't something that I've read a lot in the books that I have covered. And so it was like new and interesting and exciting. And I didn't even really think about the fact that there would be probably less fucking in it. Because it's a long form series. And they tend to be slower burning. But it didn't matter because it was great. You wrote one of the funniest things I have ever read in my entire life.
What was that?
That was a vampire reverse bailing a boat. He was scooping blood back into his mouth because his stomach had been perforated. That was one of the funniest things I have ever read in my entire life.
Nothing has elicited quite the response that I gave to that. Like that. It was, that whole scene was magnificent. It was magnificent.
Thank
you.
No,
it was so good, and she was gleefully explaining it to me.
Oh yeah.
So you mentioned like you don't read a lot of things like going into another realm, which is a convention. I can never remember the name, but that is a
portal
like
fantasy.
Yeah, right. But there's a name for it in
anime.
like anime and in manga. That's a very common trope.
Oh.
In manga and anime. Anime. One of my favorite animes is basically takes the piss out of that entire premise. It's called Cautious Hero. The hero is overpowered but overly cautious.
Oh,
it's
nice.
magnificent. It's on Hulu. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Where do you draw your inspiration from when it comes to this sort of thing? Like, do you have like, I like these things, so you pull from what you like, or does just a wild idea appears? Like, where do you draw from?
Honestly, I hadn't actually read a lot of romantic fantasy or like paranormal fantasy. I had never read a portal fantasy except for like Narnia, so all this stuff was kind of just living rent free in my head, which I think is part of the reason why I just like vomited out so fast. I was just like so excited to write it. Like certainly I think we all just absorb things without realizing, right? Like my first series is The Lightning Conjurer, and speaking of manga, so one of my favorite things of all time is Sailor Moon.
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
This is the special like art book. There's 5 of them. Yeah. Like I just have them sitting next to me. And so when I was writing The Lightning Conjurer, there was a lot of influence like from Sailor Moon that as I was writing, I was like, oh, I bet this is, I get where this is coming from. But mostly it's just, I think neurospicy brains are just super colorful and exciting. And that's why so many of us make for great creators, you know?
Oh, absolutely. You did some Googling?
Oh, yes. The anime trope is called isekai.
Isekai. Thank you.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep. And that's there's a whole trope. You could just watch isekai anime and you would probably have enough to watch your whole life.
That is so
They're
cool.
also just like the most prolific creators over there. They make so much entertainment.
I need to write that down because I'd love to read more of that. Yeah. I almost feel like I should know that. I did live in Japan, but you forget things. It goes in, it goes out, right?
Yeah, I love when people talk about their influences and their influences don't match up. One of my favorites is Les Claypool from Primus. He was really into the band XTC. He loved XTC. You listen to Primus, you would never get that he was a big fan of a very, sort of like artsy-fartsy, quaint British band, but here we are. And so I got that vibe when you were like Sailor Moon and, and this. And I'm very lightly familiar with the Lightning Conjurer series. I just kind of glossed over like the description sort of thing, so I can kind of see elements of how that would lay in there. But also,
primarily it's the elements. I really like elemental magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Too easy. Do you have, without giving away too much of anything, do you have anything on like that aside from the story that you dangled in front of your Kickstarter donors? Do you have anything else going on right now in the works? I mean, you can talk as little or as much about it as you like.
Well, so I'm a little bit of a sellout right now because, I started off pure indie, but I now have a literary agent.
Oh, that's right. I saw that.
Yeah, and so this is stuff that like I can't really talk about, but we are talking to other people. And the crazy thing is I am working on a new series right now, and it's going to go to her. And then she's going to then pitch it to some of these like big 5 publishing houses. And like, that's crazy to me, but I can give you some high level stuff. Main character is autistic, but doesn't actually like say she's autistic, but her special interest is minerals from which she can extract magic. So I'm so excited because that's one of my special interests. Like we have an entire cabinet of like 100 different minerals in there, and I can list them all off by name and mine. And she likes airplanes, and I'm just having so much fun writing her. She's like day and night from Talia from the Gilded Blood series. Talia is very like my ADHD side, where kind of a hot mess, wear our emotions on our sleeves, kind of pants as we go, but always kind of miraculously find a way out of these things, Whereas Delaney is very methodical and meticulous, and like there's a reason for everything, and has really funny thoughts on the inside, but can be a little bit standoffish on the outside, which is absolutely a part of my personality as well. So it's been really, really fun kind of going to the other side of the spectrum, because I kind of think ASD and ADD are all under the same umbrella.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. They're autism and ADHD are generally comorbid.
Yeah.
They co-present. I have both as well. So
yeah, I think in the future, what I'd like to see in like the DSM-6 or whatever is it actually is just the same acronym, like ADSD, right? And in a like a sound studio, the producer has like those dials that they push up. That's how you would then diagnose it, right? So like I have ASD type 4, right? Or like ADSD type 4, which is where I have a lot of special interests and this and that, and like it goes down line by line, because I really just think it's all the same soundboard. We just have different switches flipped.
Oh. Yeah, no, you were talking to me. It sounded like essentially like Delaney's her superpower is hyperfixation.
Yes, yeah,
and that is just so magnificent.
Yeah,
to me, it was so magnificent that I had another thought and I completely lost it.
If I am in the middle sentence, good, do it. Yeah.
Yep. So you said you had minerals.
Yeah.
Just lying about. I'm going to send you a picture on Instagram after we're done. I work in pharmacy for my day job.
The lady's a pharmacist, just so you know.
Oh, that's
wild.
And I work in pharmacy, and one of my clients, they have in their store, they have a room that looks like an old apothecary, and it's got tons of like old, like actual, like old pharmaceutical stuff. I don't know the names of all of it, but they have this kit. It is literally containers of various drugs, medicines, looks like different items, and that's how they used to test pharmacists. You used to have to pick it up and be able to identify it just by sight alone, and there's hundreds. And this is the only one that isn't in the Smithsonian in America.
That is
He's
so
like, oh yeah,
cool.
just somebody had it. But I figured you would like to see it, like all of them laid out and like how they. Yeah, so I'll send you that on Instagram after we're done.
Thank you. Please do. I love that. Yeah. So it's
and you just pre-sold a copy of whatever this book is to me.
I like. This is the part that I'm not looking forward to, which is like relinquishing control, right? Because that's the really nice thing about indie publishing, and I could talk about the differences all day, so I won't get on that soapbox. But one really nice thing about indie publishing is like I'm in full control. I hire the editor. I hire the cover designer. I take care of the marketing. I do all of the graphic design. Like I am like a deep control freak. I won't even hire a publishing assistant. I just do it all myself, which makes me crazy. So to feel like I'm not sure if I can talk to you about it because I haven't like consulted my agent, like it's wild. I don't know if I like that.
Did it feel weird to say that?
Yes!
Right?
My agent. Oh, I need to consult my agent. Like what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not an agent person.
No, this podcast could become like my favorite murder large, like Mark Maron WTF large. I would still edit it. Mm-hmm. The idea of anybody else. I obviously I take Katie's feet. Katie always gets I edit. She gets a listen. And then I post it. But the idea of anybody else handling this show in any way, no.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Katie, do you get
so I
a
completely
veto?
Understand.
What level
yes,
is it?
I do.
Okay, good. You do.
Yeah. I've only ever had to use it once.
Ooh.
And that was just for a joke that we realized yes, was funny, but if we're going to put this out to a wider audience, there's a very good chance it won't be received well.
Yeah.
So we had to just cut it out before the final posting. But yes, I do. I get final listening rights. It's like one of my favorite bragging points. I get to listen to Cheap Smut a day earlier than everyone else.
I love that.
At least a day earlier.
Because it's mine.
Yeah.
That's how I felt with
the
pod. We did that D&D podcast I was telling you about before recording. We got to listen to it like a couple days before it actually went out. I love that part. And we had those moments too where it was like, I think this is the funniest thing I've ever said in my entire life. That said, this one, you can't make all jokes all the time.
Oh
yeah.
No! And I was the one who made the joke, and I'll tell it to you after, after we get done. And listener, sorry, you're not going to hear it. That's the way it is. And she
Unless
was like,
you're in our Discord, you could probably just ask.
Yeah, if you're in the Discord, ask. I'll drop it into the Discord. But I'm not going to tell anybody. This is the way I'll know that you listened to this episode is if you say, "Hey, what was the joke that you wouldn't tell us on the pod?" And I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
What happens when you get 3 people with ADHD in the same podcast?
Yep.
We go, wait, what were you saying? Well, we were talking about my veto power.
Edit pass.
And edit passes.
Joke.
Going from Indy
to
Brad.
That's what it was. It was my joke. It was my joke. And I was like, damn you. Because it was pretty fun. It wasn't a full-on banger.
I believe you.
But I would say it was like this. It was like, like that.
I love that he's telling us how funny it was based on like the laugh scale.
Yep.
I tell Katie how funny I am.
Oh
all
my
the
God.
time.
It happens like once a day. He'll make a joke and then he'll go, I just want you to know how funny that was.
I do that
bro.
too. I do that. I'll look at my husband. I'll be like, I need you to know that was hilarious. He's like, I was laughing. I was like, but were you? Were you laughing? I don't feel like the enthusiasm was high enough.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah, that was more of a chortle. You chortled.
Yeah.
That was...
I was expecting a guffaw.
I needed a guffaw and I got a snicker. Like, can we do that?
Yeah, let's take it back. Back to one, everybody. Back to one. Let's go from the top.
You would, too.
I would.
You would until you got the reaction you wanted.
Important.
Absolutely.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you guys want to see
We do
some...
a lot of...
Yes.
I was just going to talk about us, but this is
No,
your interview.
no.
Yes, I would like to
actually,
see stuff.
would you please talk about you, and then I'll come back and say that.
Okay. I was going to say we do a lot of legal plants here in Michigan, and
you have those in Colorado too.
You
we
have
have
those
a
in
couple,
Colorado too.
Yeah, we do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we will get together in the kitchen every night after we do that, and just do bits at each other for like an hour. It's really fun, but sometimes he will go off. You will do this thing where you will tell a joke and it'll be funny, and then you'll do like 10 minutes on how great it is to be married to you because you're so funny.
Yeah. And handsome.
And I'm just standing there like, this man is telling me how great my life is because he's amazing. What?
And here's the thing. If I didn't have that level of self-esteem, you would be like, you should have more self-esteem.
Yep.
But
it's
now,
true.
But
now, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel. As a director, Would you rather have somebody who's over the top and you have to rein in, or would you rather have somebody you have to drag to where you need them?
Give me the reins any day. Reins are fun.
See?
Reins are fun.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Hey, speaking of reins, you guys want to see some pornography?
Yes.
Can't believe we're not looking at pornography right now.
Look at this porn right here. I just got the mock-up for the Omnibus that's coming out.
Can you hold that a little closer to the camera?
Maybe.
Just a little closer?
Oh my
Beautiful.
God.
There we go. Oh, that's gorgeous.
It's a lot
Are those
crisper in
mermaids?
person. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
they're
okay.
beautiful though.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Thank you for that.
They were creepy as fuck too.
Yeah,
by the way, I loved them.
I really love mermaids. I've loved them ever since I was like 2 years old, and I never wanted to like write a story about mermaids because I feel like, for multiple reasons, I didn't want to ruin something I loved. And I feel like it's hard to write a story about mermaids. I'm sure there are plenty of authors who have written mermaid stories and they're like, fight me, Rachel, it can be done. But I was really happy to be able to put them in there as like secondary characters. Yeah. Just wanted to show you my shiny mermaid painting.
I'm so glad you did. That was great.
Okay, so as we close in on the end of the show here, I had this wild idea pop into my head. So I should have asked our previous authors, but I didn't, and I apologize. Text Gwendolyn and ask her to
I will.
And fan cast her books. Can you fan cast at least a couple of the characters from the Gilded Blood series? Who is Zane?
Zane, oh my gosh, I've thought about this a lot, and as of right now, I cannot think of like a mortal on Earth who could do him justice. However, there is a Greek singer named Kostas Martakis, and if you look at like younger versions of him, I know he is gorgeous.
The bisexual urge to see this.
Yeah. Like
is it
we're
both like raging bisexuals.
Beautiful.
Say that last name again?
Martakis.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a Zane.
He's so handsome.
Yeah.
That's a Zane.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then Talia, when actually one of my readers told me this, and at first I was like, nah, you're crazy. And then I really thought about it. Have you seen Pitch Perfect or the new Hawkeye show with Haley Steinfeld?
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually think she would be a perfect Talia. She's so cute. She's so quirky. She's smart. She's quick. She's Jewish. And I have seen pictures of her tarted up. She is stunning. But like, first and foremost, she's just so freaking funny. I actually think she would be perfect. I would love that.
She's great.
Yeah.
She was in a show on Apple TV that they only lasted one season. She was in Dickinson. She played Emily Dickinson.
Oh, she did?
And she was phenomenal.
Oh, she did.
She was so good.
I need to go watch that.
Like, there's this one little section of like the first episode that just sticks in my mind. She's talking to her friend. They're having like a cigarette. So imagine Emily Dickinson smoking a cigarette. And some dude quotes her poem to her, and she just goes, I love when people quote me. God, yes. Oh,
I love the snark.
Fuck yes.
She could nail the snark,
I love
don't
it.
you think?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, we didn't finish the Hawkeye series, but just a little bit that we saw of her as Kate Bishop, which was a perfect casting, in my opinion, from the book, from the page to the screen. So I completely agree that she would be perfect for
the more I think about it, the more perfect I think she would be. And then of course, Biscuit, my own cockatoo, would play him. We would just have to tie dye him,
of course,
a few different colors. Yeah,
absolutely.
And then my cockatoo would lose his freaking mind. But all in the name of art.
Of course,
you just do it in post. You don't have to dye him.
That's true.
CGI's come a long way.
There you go. That's our Biscuit. Is my little jungle chicken.
Yes. Absolutely. I love him. I watch your Instagrams all the time.
Thank you.
Look at this freaking bird. I love exotic birds. I think they're very cool. I think I have a lot of respect for you for taking on a lifetime responsibility of taking care of an exotic bird.
Yeah.
But they also scare the fuck out of me because they're basically dinosaurs and they'll bite your finger off. Like, they scare me so bad with their big beaks.
We went to the museum where we saw Sue, the Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
And we saw the skeleton, and like Aaron and I, my husband, we looked at her and we were like, oh my God, it's Terrence. Because like even like the keel bone, they have that extra like set of ribs and like that bone.
Yep.
I was like, that's our cockatoo. Like, it just looks like a giant, put a little, head crest on her, and she would look like a cockatoo, and, vice versa with him, if you gave him little Tyrannosaurus Rex arms.
Oh, I was just going to say, did you know that there's actually a theory in the paleontology world that the T-Rex arms are on backwards, and they're actually vestigial wings?
Yes. Which makes perfect sense.
Makes so much sense. They're giant. They're like giant chickens.
They really are.
And they're just like,
especially when you hear that they didn't actually roar. They just made like these cute little bird chittering sounds. Like,
yeah, they chirped.
They were just
chirped.
scaly birds, scaly chickens.
Yep. I'm gonna drop right into dinosaur hyperfixation mode. The only dinosaur that's known to have made a very loud sound is the Parasaurolophus.
Or our 2.5-year-old who runs around going, "Dinosaur roar!"
Yeah, she's adorable. She loves dinosaurs.
I love that you just dropped that name like right in the middle of this. That was amazing.
The Parasaurolophus.
Yeah.
So did you watch Land Before Time?
Yeah.
As a kid.
Yes.
Ducky with the crest that goes like this is hollow, and they put a 3D rendering of that into an algorithm that mimicked what the sound would be if you pushed air through it, because it was fully hollow. It sounds like a horn. So it was like, ooh. And that was about the only dinosaur they think actually made a sound, and it didn't come from their throat. It came from their weird head tube.
That's amazing.
And I love
that too.
It's incredible.
That was like the highest note we could have ended this podcast on. Like, forget books. I could talk dinosaurs and birds with you all day. Can we do a podcast part 2? Dinosaurs and birds and whatever.
I would like to do an entire series of interviews with you, because I would, but in all seriousness, yes, that would be fun to talk about. But I also think it'd be fun to talk to you at greater length, maybe like an industry episode where you kind of share a little more. Like you said, you talked about like you're crossing over from the indie to the big world. So I think it would be very informative, because I know that we have a lot of listeners who also want to write. So I think that would be fascinating. So we'll talk about that some other time. But thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation, and for a conversation that I feel very good that is going to be a very light edit. So that's a lot of fun. I really appreciate that. Rachel Rener, thank you so much. Where can people find you on the internet should they wish to do so?
You can find my books on Amazon, or you can get signed copies from me at rachelrenner.com for the same price, if you can believe it. Yeah. Anywhere books are sold too. You can find the paperbacks. Just, they won't be signed.
No. Well, I'll put links to all of your socials and all of your website and everything in the show notes, so go check that out. Rachel Rener, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Cheap Smut. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
I had so much fun.
This was so fun.